Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to speak on the subject of ethical decision making. Uh, this subject is now being discussed across the globe. We all make decisions every day, whether in our private life or in organizations where we work, or even in the community that we live in. We all make decisions, but these decisions that we make, do we bring in the factor of ethics, which has now led to the concept of ethical decision making. So, what precisely is ethical decision making? Now, let me be very clear. Ethical decision making essentially is a process of evaluating and choosing among alternatives in a manner consistent with ethical standards or ethical principles, including values and accepted standards of what is right and what is wrong. It goes beyond the idea of following the law or following the policies of a company. It goes beyond that. Rather, it requires considering all the moral implications of the decisions that we make and how those decisions, affect, our stakeholders. This is the remit of what ethical decision making is all about. So we want to be very clear that anytime we want to make a decision, we try to factor in the element of ethics and ethical principles and standards. So what are the key features of this ethical decision making? What are the key elements of this decision making? There I can remember about 4 or 5 of them, those principles that guide, ethical decision making. The first is that it is values based. Take values, core values, into the decision making process. So they are guided by the idea of honesty, fairness, integrity, accountability, as well as respect. The second point is that it is stakeholder oriented. It is oriented towards meeting the needs of stakeholders. So you have to consider how your decisions impact all affected parties before taking a decision. It goes beyond compliance, just as we said before. It is not about complying with laws, regulations, or complying with with policies. No, it ensures that choices that we make are just legally correct, but also morally, they are morally sound. And they also have long-term focus. It's not focused on the short term. The focus is on the longer term. And finally, it is transparent. By that, I mean that decision making that is ethically based, is open and explainable as well as defensible. Those are the key features of ethical decision making. But we can also go ahead and talk about what are the steps that you have to take when you want to engage in ethical decision making. It's quite simple. The first is to recognize the ethical issue that is at stake when you want to make a decision. So you need to identify whether the decision that you're about to make or action that you're about to take has moral consequences. The second is you need to gather the facts. We want to gather the facts. By this, you need to collect all of the relevant information, before acting, instead of just acting before getting the complete or appropriate information. Then you also need to be able to evaluate all of the alternatives. So you have to, identify, prioritize all of the alternatives that is involved in the decision-making process and try to bring that into the equation. Then, of course, in making the final decision, you have to apply all of the principles, ethical principles that we just mentioned. And finally, you take action to reflect before making that decision. So, in summary, we can say that ethical decision making is the right thing to do. It's about doing the right thing. That's what it is. Doing the right thing in the right way, even when such a decision is very difficult, it is costly, and also unpopular. So we can say that ethical decision making is a process of bringing in all of the factors of ethics, making sure that the decision that you ultimately take is morally sound. That is what we want to be doing when we are making decisions. Thank you very much. Thank you.